What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Know you guys got a lot of choices out there. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day each and every day. We cannot thank you enough. Great, fantastic, insert adjective here. Just a gorgeous day in the upstate today, man. How can you not be happy when you see and when you feel what's going on right now? I realize, like things could be a little bit better for Clemson. Things could be a little bit better for South Carolina. A combined record between the two of them of 5-5 through this stretch isn't exactly likely to peak excitement in our area, right? I get it. I understand. At the same token, folks, let me tell you, we're in the best sports month of the entire year. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody, because this month is absolutely positively fantastic. I don't know about you, but I've got October as the best sports month of the year. I've got March as the second best sports month of the year. I've got September as the third best sports month of the year. September is the start of football, right? March is March Madness. But in this month of October, brother, you got it all. You got it all. This is like on the bottom of the list, but you got the start of the NBA season. You have no more BS preseason games in college football. No more cream puff, sisters of the poor, island of misfit toys opponents. You got all the legitimate opponents, all the legitimate games. In the NFL, it's the same thing. We're right in the heart of it, right in the thick of it, right in the nitty-gritty of where we need to be. And you got the baseball playoffs, start of the NBA season, all of the above, start of the NHL season. You even got MLS Cup for those who care about that sort of thing. Best sports month of the year, best weather of the year. I don't know, man. Like if I'm power ranking the seasons, okay, if I'm doing a power ranking of the seasons, top 3 sports months, by the way, the bottom 2 sports months are June and July. But if I'm power ranking the seasons, okay, like I think fall's my number one. I really do think fall is taking the candle with the number one spot right now. I think each year we get 3 good seasons and we get 1 bad season. And I don't know. I think it's kind of the same for everybody, right? Yeah, I got fall number 1. I have summer number 2. I've got spring number 3. And I've got winter number 4. Winter sucks. It's like winter is like Mother Nature crying that football's over. It sucks.
It's also ski season.
It is.
Do you ski? Does Mark Ryan ski? Does Mark Ryan snowboard? Are you more of a tuber?
Diesel, I try to ski. I wouldn't say I'm good enough to be called a skier, but I definitely try to ski.
Okay.
I do my A-level best, right? We do the best that we can with what we've got. We weren't born with a lot, dear Diesel, but we do the best with what we've got, for sure.
I just met a guy today. I sold him something on Facebook Marketplace. He just moved here from northern Arizona. He goes, "How much does it snow here? Does it snow here a lot?" I was like, "No, you get maybe one a year. If it really dumps down a lot of snow on us, you get like 4 or 5 inches tops, and that's it." He goes, "That sounds perfect."
Well, it is perfect. But I will tell you this, Diesel, for a Florida boy, a Texas boy, this is even a little cold for me. I'm not really loving life December, January, and February here. I'm not really loving it. There's way too many days with a high of 43 and rain for me. Like the high is 43. No, thank you. Fall gives you the breath of fresh air. There's something about the breath of fresh fall air, right? Like you step outside today, it's like the epitome of, right? You got football, you got leaves changing, you get a break from the heat. Number 2, summer, you get the beach and vacation. Number 3, spring, you get March Madness. Life blooms in the spring. You're able to regenerate yourself in the spring. You get opening day in baseball in the spring. In winter, you get football ending in snow. Congratulations. Enjoy. Football ending, and now freeze your ass off.
Got to get you into the X Games, man. You gotta, it's hard for a newbie to get in when they are saying things like, "Oh, can you just believe that triple Salchow quadruple cork 900 switchback that he just did? Crazy, right? Like what? All I saw him do was go up in the air and twist."
It's never stopped to impress me. I mean, it's always impressed me. Shaun White, I put him up there with the best athletes of our generation. But I'm telling you, man, it's just not for me. It's just not for me. So anyway, guys, if I was to ask you to power rank the seasons, all things considered, where would you be? I got summer number 2, even though summer doesn't have squat for sports. Okay? Yeah, that's an insult to baseball. But that's what I mean. It doesn't have squat for sports. Summer's still number 2. Spring is number 3. Winter's number 4. We get 3 good seasons. Like fall's a 10, summer's an 8, spring's a 6, winter's a 1. I don't get it. And I know, like, I'm not especially a super tough guy complaining about winters in the state of South Carolina, but I'm telling you, it's just not my jam.
Maybe that's proof that you're not a New Yorker after all.
Yeah, Diesel. Yeah.
You can't handle it when it gets to 40 degrees.
No, it sucks. Like, who wants to be outside in this crap? Who wants to be outside in this straight garbage, man? It's awful. But this month of October is absolutely glorious. And so, folks, with that as the backdrop to open us up today on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere this afternoon, your power ranking of the seasons are welcome. I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking, the fan bases here, Clemson and South Carolina, and my own fan base, the Florida Gators, they're in a bad mood. All 3 fan bases are in a bad mood. If you are, in the business of creating like viral content and wanting to increase your following and all of these things as we are, what has gone on this year is not good for you. Like, we have a couple of managers in the building who can't stand Clemson, all right? And, like, they were like, after the Duke game, I love it. Love it. Celebrated all night. Absolutely loved it. And you know what I said to them? I said, yeah, laugh, but, you're not going to be laughing when the engagement numbers might be not what you want, when the ratings might not be what you want, okay? Because there's only so many different ways that a host can put lipstick on a pig. You know what I'm saying? To drum up interest when the excitement really isn't there. But the reality is, like we have managers in the building here who, like celebrate when Clemson loses. We have managers in the building here who celebrate when South Carolina loses. And I'm like, guys, come on, today, juniors, let's get with the program. Like, it's good for us when South Carolina is compelling. It's good for us if Clemson is compelling. And you know why I believe the mood is where it is? It's because Clemson and South Carolina and Florida continue to lose to teams in their seasons that they have no business losing to. No business losing to these teams. None whatsoever. All right? You consider Clemson and South Carolina. I've put together a list here, guys, of teams that Clemson, South Carolina, and Florida should never lose to. Should never happen. Okay? And I'm going to tell you the why in this segment. For Clemson, the list is Duke, Georgia Tech, Boston College, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. Duke is a basketball school. They get all the 4- and 5-star basketball players. They get no 4- and 5-star football players. Georgia Tech is more worried about academics. Boston College is trying to stay afloat in a pro sports town. Same with Syracuse. Wake Forest has the smallest alumni and the smallest stadium around. All right? And Virginia Tech just largely suck. There's only been like 1 or 2 coaches who ever win there. All right? I mean, those are the reasons. Like, you lost to Duke this year, Clemson, and therefore you're in a bad mood. It's like you should never lose to Duke. You know that. Okay? South Carolina should never lose to Kentucky, Missouri, or Vanderbilt. Now, I don't think you need me to spend time explaining the Vanderbilt one, right? It's an academic school that's only in the SEC to boost the SEC's academic profile. They don't invest the money that they get in athletics. The visiting locker room is in such poor shape that during COVID, visiting teams to Vanderbilt just stayed outside for halftime. Imagine choosing to stay outside in the heat in your uniform as opposed to going inside the locker room. Imagine making that decision. Missouri does not have the SEC culture that the other SEC schools do, and Kentucky is the same thing as Duke. They're a basketball school. They're always going to be a basketball school first. If South Carolina says the opposite, we're a football school first, you shouldn't lose to the basketball school. Shouldn't happen, okay? If a basketball school is beating you, that means your football program isn't doing a number of things correct. And Florida should not lose to Kentucky, Missouri, Mississippi State, South Carolina, UCF, USF, and Vanderbilt. Florida lost to Vanderbilt last year. I can't remember if they lost to Missouri last year, but I know they lost to Kentucky this year. Well, you're saying, Mark Ryan, the list for South Carolina's losses are a lot smaller than Clemson and Florida. Yeah, South Carolina's program isn't where Clemson's program is or Florida's program is, right? But if you're a Gamecock, you should take it personally anytime you lose to Missouri, which happens quite often, anytime you lose to Vanderbilt, or anytime you lose to Kentucky. Anytime, because those programs do not have the level of passion and culture and commitment to the sport of football that you do. UCF and USF are the redheaded stepsisters of the state of Florida football. Redheaded stepsisters. Florida should never be losing to those teams. Yet sometimes they do. Should never happen. And I understand, right? Like you saying you should never lose to them. Well, sometimes you are going to lose to them. I get it. I understand that. You can't bat 1,000. But each time that loss happens, it's a loss that shouldn't happen. Okay? Now, can I hear from you guys via the madworldattractions.com text line? Are you in agreement with this? Disagreement with this? Where do you come out? Clemson should just never lose to Duke, Georgia Tech, Boston College, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Virginia, or Virginia Tech. That's half of the league. Should never lose to them. And they get one of them this weekend. And by the way, Clemson fans, I'm taking the wifey to the game tomorrow. If I have not had the privilege of meeting any of you guys and you would like to do so, reach out to me here and reach out to us on the text line, and we might be able to set something up tomorrow. Bringing the wifey to the Clemson game. And super excited about that. She's excited about that. All right? Our first game together this year. Remember, she asked me if she can wear a Clemson shirt, and I said, as long as you don't expect me to do that, okay? We're good. I can only be seen in Florida gear. And really, guys, you know this about me. I'm not really I'm not really a sports team wearing gear guy that often. Okay, it's just not my style. But, I definitely can't be seen in anything for Clemson and definitely can't be seen for anything in South Carolina. 71307 on the madworldattractions.com text line is where you can get to us on the show. Texter says, and I don't understand this. Mark, give me winter every day. As someone who works outside, I can always put on more clothes, but I can only take off so many legally. Well, Texter, who really cares about legality these days, right? Who many cares? But putting on clothes sucks. Being cold sucks. When it's 12 degrees, your body actually hurts. Do you enjoy sitting on a toilet when it's 12 degrees outside?
Yeah, but if you dig ditches and lay roads and railroad tracks and repair things outside for a living, you know how much it sucks when it gets hot. And when it gets cold, it actually feels pretty good to get out and do the work in the cold.
Well, I'll tell you what, we only have 2 hot months here, July and August. Those are the only, you got days in June that are like high of 82. You got days in September that are like high of 82. July and August, you have 2 hot months here. You have 3 cold months here, and you have 2 cool months here. November and March are cool months. Florida boy doesn't like it. Let's see here. Texter says, Mark, I agree with fall as number one. This is crazy to me. I would rank winter second because of NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, NCAA basketball, and NHL hockey. Spring third because you have the NCAA tournament and MLB opening day. Summer is last, meaningless baseball, and that's it. But it's all encompassing, Texter, right? It's not just the sports scene. In summer, you got the beach and you got vacation. You know, Florida boy likes that. Florida boy likes both of those things. You know, so for us, it's kind of like a break from the hardcore sports scene. But fall, no doubt about it, folks. Fall is 100% the best, the very, very best. All right, my friends. We are going to catch you up on the high school football weekend. That will be with our guy Cole Bryson, host of the Saturday Scramble. That is coming your way next. And this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ron, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ron, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Wonderful to have you guys with us. Joined right now by our main guy, Cole Bryson, on high school football, getting you set for all that is good and coming up this week. Cole Bryson joins us right now on the show. Cole, always do appreciate the time, my man. We have enjoyed thoroughly having all of the players of the week on this week, and I know, you know, this week we were blessed to have on Caleb Blanton from Chesney, and kind of going through all that they've been through as a family, as a program, as a town. You know, Cole, I'm not sure how much you know about this, but, you know, with everything Ukraine as a country has been going through, they had to play to qualify for the World Cup. They were in a three-way tiebreaker, and they almost made it. They almost made it, even though they had nowhere to practice and nowhere to play. On sheer heart, grit, and determination, they almost did it. And there certainly are differences between a war and a tragedy. But I think about Chesney, having played on Monday, having to go against Abbeville 4 days later. Mentally, physically, Cole, how are they possibly ready for tonight?
Mark, that's a subject that's so tricky to talk about, because you said it. It is different, and every situation is different. But you are right. It is. You would think that mentally, that it's got to be tough on these guys. And one thing that I think of, Mark, when we talk about this situation in particular, is when I talk to head coaches on a weekly basis at the high school level nowadays. You know, I had one on my show the other day talking about how when a team loses, the players are able to respond sometimes better than the coaches, right? Because they're young and they're just able, they're able to look past whatever the loss was on Friday night. And for Chesney in this situation, when something tragic like this happens, Mark, and what happened a week ago, almost exactly a week ago right now, you obviously don't want a tragedy to ever happen. But if you do look at tragedies that have happened over the past, we always want to come together, right? Especially as the Chesney community. We want to come together as a community in Chesney, Bowling Springs, Spartanburg, and the people of Chesney have done just that. And when you are able to come together and pray for one another, love one another, support one another, it does make you stronger as a unit and as a group and as a community. We've seen it, just in the past. If you look at the horrible tragedies that have happened, over the past decade, the communities that are able to respond well and come together, they're strong, man. They're hard to bring down. And for Chesney to be able to do that, Mark, and for this football team to come together, it could benefit this football team as well. And like I said, I want to emphasize this. We never want a tragedy to happen, ever. However, when they do happen, we want to respond well, right? And the Chesney community has been a perfect example of what it looks like, Mark, to respond well. and they have come together. And if they can continue to come together and continue to play hard, because that was a huge win over Landrum, it would not shock me to see them beat Abbeville tonight, Mark. But you said it. Playing Abbeville is a tall task in itself, so it'll definitely be interesting.
Cole Bryson joining us here on the show. If you guys want to get your high school football questions in to Cole, you can do so right now. 71307 on the madworldattractions.com text line is where you guys can reach Cole Bryson. Cole, when you look at some of the other big games coming up this week, what jumps off the page to you?
Mark, there's a good list of games tonight that I'd like to take a look at. The first one, obviously, Chesney Abbeville is really intriguing, right? We talked about how tough it is for any team to play Abbeville, and it's even tougher going to Abbeville, and it's even tougher going to Abbeville on a short week, right? So that game for Chesney is going to be huge. I also am interested in 2A to watch 96 host Landrum. Landrum, coming off of a short week as well. They played Monday night against Chesney. They lost. It was a tough loss. They've had some injury at the running back position. 96 is a team that runs the ball, Mark. They threw the ball twice last week in their game at Blacksburg in the win, did the Wildcats of 96. So they're a ground and pound type team under Matthew Bennett. And that Landrum game is intriguing. If Colton Link's not healthy, I like 96 to win. 96 has a great chance regardless, because they're a very good team. They're 5-1 on the season, and it'll be interesting to see if Landrum can respond well after a tough loss on Monday. Here in Greenville tonight, Mark, T.L. Hanna at J.L. Mann. My goodness, both teams 5-1. Both of these teams have been at the top of 5A this season. J.L. Mann's been exceptional, but Mark, we talk about this every time we talk about T.L. Hanna, right? Can J.L. Mann figure out this triple wing, style offense where they're having to defend the option style ground attack that T.L. Hanna throws at you? Here's the deal, Mark. If you're J.L. Mann, you don't practice against this every week. So preparing for it for 1 week is tough. So it'll be interesting to see if J.L. Mann has enough preparation for T.L. Hanna. T.L. Hanna's really big and physical up front. I think their physicality and size up front will be a little too much for J.L. Mann. And then two more that I'd like to highlight. Burns at Bowling Springs. Bowling Springs just had a complete heartbreaker last week. The Dorman, they led the entire game, and then Dorman goes forward on fourth down to win the game. Bowling Springs hosting Burns this week. Burns is banged up. Can Bowling Springs pull off the upset of the year, right? This would definitely be the biggest upset of the year if Bowling Springs could knock off Burns in 5A. That would be big. They're well coached. Matt Reel's done an exceptional job, but I think Burns will be a little too much to handle tonight. And then probably, Mark, the biggest game in the state tonight, Gaffney at Spartanburg. These two teams don't like each other. However, even though this is a rivalry game, it has been all Gaffney lately. Out of the last 21 matchups, Mark, Gaffney has won 16 of those 21 matchups. So Gaffney's dominated over the past 2 decades. Spartanburg's defense is elite. We know that. But Gaffney's offense has a little firepower as well. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think the Gaffney-Spartanburg game tonight at Spartanburg is without a doubt the biggest game in the state of South Carolina.
Cole, is there a 1A, 2A, 3A school in the area that you believe if they moved up to a 4 or 5A, and I know it doesn't work that way, it's based on how big the school is, but this is just a hypothetical, that you believe would really be able to hold their own based on the athletes that they have, the creativity of the scheme that they run, or just how good their defense is?
Well, there's probably a team in Inman right now, Diesel, that's sticking their hand in the air saying, hey, we're over here. Chapman, they've already done that this year. And, Chapman has shown that over the past few years, even when Mark Hodge was there, I remember there was a preseason game where they scrimmaged Burns, and it was all Chapman's in. So, Chapman beating Burns, yeah, it's a surprise this year, but Chapman's been competitive for a long time, especially what Mark Hodge did there and taking them to state championships twice. It's hard to say, Diesel, if a team can consistently do that, right? It's kind of like an ACC team beating an SEC team. Oh, wow, you beat an SEC team, but could you handle that wear and tear every week. That's a different story, talking about the every week battle. I mean, look at the schedules that Gaffney and Spartanburg have played this year, and they haven't even entered region play. You know, Gaffney still has Spartanburg and Dorman and Burns and Bowling Springs all left on their schedule. So there's definitely teams that can go up and win those matchups, Diesel. But playing in 5A, you know, at the upper classifications, playing up week in and week out will eventually, in my opinion, get the best of those teams because of the depth. They just don't have the depth and the numbers that you talked about that those bigger schools have.
Cole, a question coming in on our madworldattractions.com text line. Cole, do my Boiling Spring Bulldogs have a decent shot to beat Burns at home? Also, what are your thoughts on Boiling Springs QB Lincoln Husky? Big left-hander, gives me Michael Penix Jr. vibes at Washington.
He's a great quarterback, Mark, and we said going into the season that he's one of the better quarterbacks in the upstate, a really underrated quarterback. I've been high on him all year. He is good. That win for Bowling Springs over Chapman was a huge win back in non-region play. Does Bowling Springs have a chance against Burns tonight? Yeah, they have a chance, but here's the deal. Trey Segura is a different level type running back, and he's only a freshman. I know he's banged up, but if he cannot be subdued by the Bowling Springs defense, it'll be a long night for Bowling Springs. They're going to have to figure out a way to stop Trey Segura, and then if they do, you've got guys over the top like Amani Weaver and Bomar, Samarius Bomar, that you have to worry about. And you know, the Burns quarterback, he's not a terrible quarterback by any means, so he can definitely put the ball where it needs to be. Bowling Springs tonight will have to, if they want to win that game, Mark, they're going to have to definitely win the turnover battle, but they're going to have some breaks as well. Every championship team that you can look at over the past, you know, how many ever years at any level in any sport, they've all had luck at some point down the line, right? If Bowling Springs wants to win tonight, I'm not saying they have to get lucky, but they're going to definitely have to have some balls bounce their way tonight.
Cole, I'm going to ask you a big question that's probably going to, you know, forge you a lot of new enemies. Who has the best student section in the upstate?
Wow. That's a great question.
Now, Cole, can I interject something here?
Yeah.
I'm going to, so to me, on Diesel's question, you told us the other day that high school football would offer a 0-point home field advantage. I'm still shocked by that. So I guess to Diesel's point, and his question would be, you know, whose students are traveling the most to road games, right? Yeah. And who's got the most raucous? I mean, if there is actually a home field advantage, I still can't believe you told me that the other day.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I think those two questions do go hand in hand. Yeah. And to Diesel's question about the student section, you know, each school has their contingency of students, but I would say this, if you want to see who has the best fan base and student section, go to Spartanburg tonight and see what the Spartanburg home side looks like compared to the Gaffney away side. And that right there, Mark, goes back to my point to you to answer your question. I'll bet you both that tonight at Spartanburg, Gaffney will have, number one, a better student section, as well as number two, a better fan turnout. So, you know, the Gaffney fan base is one of the best in the state. They have been for a long, long time. They have more history and more championships than anybody else in the upstate, right? They call it Titletown for a reason. So when you go to a game like, and I think that Spartanburg-Gaffney game will be a perfect example tonight. Spartanburg has a beautiful new stadium on the east side of Spartanburg. It's incredible. The people there are great. It's a super nice place to watch a football game. However, Gaffney fans travel like no other, and Spartanburg doesn't have the biggest, rowdiest, loudest, you know, fan base around. So I think tonight what I'll do is, guys, I'll tweet out a picture and tag you both at kickoff, and we'll judge it based on that picture. How's that?
Cole, I got to ask this question here. This comes from Madcraft, and he's wondering if there are any big names across the upstate who have been offered by Clemson or South Carolina.
Well, in terms of those two schools in particular, I don't know. All I keep hearing is more and more every week on Avery McFadden of Hillcrest. And as I told Mark a few weeks ago, he's one that I would not be surprised if by the end of the year he has some big time offers. Here's the deal: Clemson and Carolina. If you look at the past, 10, 20 years, they don't they don't send down a ton of offers to the upstate for some reason. It seems like they go out of state more. And Mark, you and I talked about this a few years ago, but it's every now and then you'll have a player or two commit to South Carolina or Clemson, but it seems like it should be more. But to answer your question, Diesel, specifically on South Carolina or Clemson, I would assume that Avery McFadden's got to be on their radar.
Texter says, Gaffney fans tailgate. They win hands down, by far the most intimidating and raucous fan base in high school football. Number one, it sounds like Cole agrees with you. Number two, it sounds like I'm going to need to get my buddy Cole a disguise the next time he and I hang out in Spartanburg. Okay, so we're gonna have to do that sooner than later. Cole, can you go out on a limb right now and tell us who the region winners are going to be?
That's a great question, Mark. I'll start in 1A. I'll tell you this: Christchurch, Southside Christian, and what was the one I'm forgetting? Southside. Oh, St. Joe's. Those three right there in 1A, all in the same region. Christchurch, Southside Christian, and St. Joe's. I really like what I've seen out of Southside Christian this season. Year in and year out, they're tough. St. Joe's is really good as well. So it'll be fun to see how that one falls out. But one of those two would probably be the favorite. And 2A.
Wait. But I can't do that, Cole. I need a winner.
All right, let's go St. Joe's.
Okay.
And 2A, I'm going to, I have to pick Abbeville in that region. They're just, Chesney. I hope Chesney proves me wrong tonight, Mark, because that would be a monumental win.
Same.
But I like Abbeville in that region. I think a fun one is Chapman Broome in 3A. I say fun. Those two teams are, no disrespect to Travelers Rest Carolina and the other team in that region. But here's the deal. Broome and Chapman are the two best teams of Region 2 3A. So Chapman Broome at the end of the season will be for the region. I like Chapman to beat Broome. Broome's really good, but I like Chapman to win the region in 3A. As far as Greer's region, Greer has had a tough non-region slate. They didn't win a ton of non-region games, but their region gets considerably easier. So I like Greer to win their region, Mark, if I had to make a prediction. And then if I had to make a prediction in Region 2 5A, I'm going to take Gaffney. I think Gaffney wins tonight at Spartanburg. And from what we can tell, if that were to happen, it would all come down to Gaffney Burns at the end of the season, Mark, for that region championship. I just think Gaffney has, all around defense, special teams, offense. I think Gaffney's the team to beat.
So continuing to sell on Greenville.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. They just haven't performed like I thought they would this season, especially last week against Westside. Again, Westside's a good team, well coached, but Greenville has not impressed me like I thought they could have.
All right, Cole, your take on any games you want to give us predictions for tonight that you haven't done already.
Absolutely, Mark. I will say already I said Gaffney over Spartanburg 24-14. I like Dorman big tonight over Malden 38-13. Hillcrest Woodmont is an interesting game. I do think Hillcrest will I think Woodmont may score once or twice. I think Hillcrest wins big. I like Greer tonight over Eastside. I like Riverside over Lawrence. I like Westside big over Pickens. I like Greenwood over Easley and Greenville over Berea. Woodruff should take care of business at Emerald tonight. Broome will absolutely name the score tonight against Blue Ridge. Wren, I like them over Southside, kind of the same situation there. I like Powdersville over Fountain Inn. That should be a really good game. I like Pendleton and another good game over Seneca. I like BHP over Palmetto, Daniel over West Oak, Crescent over Walhalla, 96 over Landrum, Abbeville over Chesney, Liberty over Blacksburg, and in 1A, I like St. Joe's over Dixie. I like Southside Christian over Calhoun Falls, and lastly, I like Christchurch over Ware Shoals tonight, Mark.
Very, very good stuff. Now, Cole, here's what you tell me if this is fair, okay? We've got, ladies and gentlemen, all right, we are a show based on accountability here on Offsides, all right? We've got Cole's region winner championship predictions written down. In 1A, St. Joe's, 2A, Abbeville, 3A Chapman, 4A Greer, 5A Gaffney. Cole, you tell me if this is fair. If you get 4 out of 5, I give you the win. If you get 3 out of 5, I'll consider it a push. If you don't get 3 out of 5, you've lost. Fair?
I like it. I'll take my chances, Mark.
Okay, there you go. Hey, guys, the very best high school football show you've ever heard is the Saturday Scramble. It airs right here on the Fan Upstate on Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. You will hear Cole Bryson. You will hear Alex Guest. Am I saying that right, Cole?
That's right.
Alex Guest tomorrow morning right here on the Saturday Scramble. Check it out. Cole, we look forward to talking with you Monday.
Thanks, Mark. Always a pleasure.
All right, take care. And coming up next on the show, quite a few of you are taking umbrage with a take that I had in the first segment today. We'll tackle that with you next. I answer your objections, baby. Right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark, Ron, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. All right. You know, we're getting some feedback on this. We opened the show today, and I said, look, Clemson, South Carolina, Florida should never lose to these teams. For Clemson, the never lose to list is Duke, Boston College, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. For South Carolina, well, there hasn't been a lot of success there. The list is smaller. Kentucky, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. For Florida, the should never lose to list is Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, UCF, USF, and Vanderbilt. And, you know, it's interesting. Tiggins, you see what he did there? He says, I feel like Kentucky has been the solid the last 2 years. Yo-Yo said South Carolina is 2-7 against Kentucky in their last decade and 3-6 against Missouri in their last in the last decade. And then we've got somebody on the text line today saying that, giving me all of Missouri's conference titles all time. South Carolina has one conference title all the way back in 1969. Missouri is 119 games above 500. South Carolina is 25 games above 500. Also, Missouri has already won the SEC East more than U of SC, even though they've been in the conference a fraction of the time as the Chickens. What you're doing, Texter, is noble, and I appreciate that. You're giving me one-loss records, and I think you're conflating what I'm saying. South Carolina shouldn't lose to Missouri. You're missing the why, the culture. Missouri is not a culture fit in the Southeastern Conference, period. Okay? South Carolina has just been mired in mediocrity. But if South Carolina ever lucked into the right head coach, and they might have him now, who knows, right? But if they ever lucked into the right head coach, you'd see it. You don't, because Missouri, and Diesel, tell me if you agree or disagree with this, they're essentially the same team every year. Every year, Missouri's the same team. Now, but have you seen they're 5-0 this year? Yeah, against the Island of Misfit Toys. Okay, they're the same team every single year. You know, they're never really going to be worse than 3-5 in the SEC. They're never really going to be better than 5-3 in the SEC. And they're not a cultural fit. You know, they don't prioritize football the way that South Carolina does. And that's why I don't think South Carolina should lose to them. Guys, there's plenty of programs that have better records than South Carolina does. But what they don't have is the SEC and the culture prioritization of football, right? Kentucky, basketball school. Florida should not be losing to a basketball school. South Carolina should not be losing to a basketball school. What Mark Stoops has done there is commendable. You know, beating Florida 3 years in a row, beating South Carolina 8 times in the last 10 years. That's commendable. But it's more a sign of Florida's program and South Carolina's program have not been in good places. All right? Because when Florida's humming, Florida's not losing to Kentucky. When South Carolina's humming, South Carolina's not losing to Kentucky. One of you quick search guys, can any of you tell me how often Spurrier lost to Kentucky during his time in Florida and South Carolina? Florida had beaten Kentucky something like 30 years in a row. And Spurrier was there for the beginning of that. Kentucky's got their program in a better place than it's ever been. Florida is in a dark place. South Carolina's in a darker place. Doesn't mean you should lose to that team, right? Doesn't mean you should lose to it. Texter says if Kirby Smart would have taken the Carolina job before he was offered the Georgia job, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. Spur Daddy, one of the most surprising things to me, man, is that Gamecock fans don't admit that. Like, Kirby Smart would have South Carolina in the top 10 right now. National championships, I don't know. But they'd be a perennial top 10 team. And the fact that Gamecock fans can't see that, they're blind.
The conversation, it's one of those, pure hypotheticals you can never know.
Sure.
Like, there are a lot of programs that are already a Corvette type of program running pretty good. They just need a little bit of a tune up. And then they're running, 10-second quarter miles. But then there are also programs who are kind of clapped out hoopties that need an awful lot of work. They need a full engine rebuild. And I think South Carolina as a whole is more of that latter category. It's a program that needs a lot of work to be a national contender type of program. Georgia, they've already won titles. For years and years and years, we thought, man, this is the year Mark Richt is going to get them to a title. This is the year. This is the year. This is the year. And they were always close. They were always just outside of it. They were always just missing it. So I'm here to argue that it's easier to turn Georgia with the same head coach, same staff. It's easier to turn Georgia into an elite national power than it is South Carolina. I'm here to say that dropping the same coaching staff directly out of Athens into Columbia isn't necessarily going to yield the exact same results.
Not exactly the same, but my assumption, Diesel, is they'd be top 10. You'd have an elite head coach, by year 3, you'd know that you got the guy, as opposed to Beamer. I don't know. I mean, Gamecock fans, do you know you have the guy? Or are you still wondering?
I think it also says that some programs are elite because they can get the elite guy, and some guys are not. Some programs are not elite because they cannot get the elite guy.
Mrs. Smart, Kirby Smart's wife, said openly, "You have no idea how close we came to accepting that South Carolina job." We've got Brent Beard coming your way next, right here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ron, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Truly, Drew, appreciate all of you guys making time for us. Your questions are welcome to our Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beard. Joins us right now on the line. Brent, always good to catch up with you, my friend. I'll open right there. What is Brent Beard's Heisman top 3 right now?
I would say Caleb Williams, Penix from Washington, and I'm going to put Brock Bowers in there. Okay, this who might be the best football player in the SEC, if not the nation. Well, what he is capable of doing. So now that's not necessarily in order, but I'll throw those 3 out there, and that's a pretty good trio.
Brent, as I was watching the game last night between 4-0 Liberty and 0-4 Sam Houston State, I got to thinking, does Brent Beard see any guys at the group of 5 level that he believes would really step up and be successful? Like, who might the Power 5 be targeting going into next year?
Oh, you mean
players, coaches, all of the above?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, as a matter of fact, I watched both games. Guys would, and I know this may be reaching, but that's a really good question. Would Rich Rod be ready to? I mean, he's done a good job. I give him credit at Jacksonville State. Would he be ready for a Power 5? I think he's pretty happy where he is right now, and sometimes guys are. But I mean, if they continue to play well, some AD who knows him, and I'm not saying he's going to Michigan if Harbaugh leaves type thing. I mean, that would be obviously not going to happen. He's been there before, but the reality, but that's my point. But he could get a decent middle of the pack job in some conference. I believe at some point, couldn't he?
Why? Certainly so. I mean, if I was a downtrodden Power 5 program, Rich Rod would be on my short list of people to turn it. And I'm not sure I'm not sure the indiscretions list for Rich Rod are as deep and as troublesome as they are for Bobby Petrino, right? And Bobby Petrino kept getting opportunities. Why? Because he could win, because he'd create a winning program and the value that holds. All right, Brent, so I have an admittedly subjective list here, and I welcome where you agree and where you disagree, but I've come up with lists for teams that Clemson, South Carolina, Florida should never lose to, okay? The list for Clemson is Duke, Georgia Tech, Boston College, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. These programs are either basketball schools, small schools, Wake Forest, or they don't have the commitment to football that other schools do.
Right.
South Carolina should not lose to Kentucky, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. Missouri is, to me, Brent, they're kind of the same team every year. They're never really worse than 3-5 in the SEC. They're never really better than 5-3 in the SEC. Vanderbilt doesn't require an explanation. Kentucky is a basketball school first. And I think when you consider the priority for the Gamecocks, one would think that would take precedence. And then for Florida, I've got Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, UCF, USF, and Vanderbilt. And then I got people hit me with, well, Mark, South Carolina's 2-8 in their last 10 against Kentucky, and Missouri's beaten them. And, when Missouri is when Kentucky's beating South Carolina and Florida, Brent, it's a sign that Kentucky's in their best ever place as a program. Yeah. And Florida and South Carolina are not. No Florida fan ever thinks the Gators should lose to Kentucky. Those lists, generally speaking, Brent, what do you think? Agree or disagree?
I would probably agree, although I do think right now what Mark Stoops has done at Kentucky is admirable, frankly, with where they're going. I mean, they've rebounded from a subpar year last year. I mean, Liam Cohen is back. Now, Devin Leary is okay, but he really hasn't stepped up and done what he needs to do. Ray Davis, what he did against Florida, I don't see that happening against Georgia. Now, Mark Stoops is 0-10 against Georgia. And lost outscored by 33-12. So I would say your outlier there probably would be Kentucky on most years. Of course, Florida beat Kentucky 31 years in a row, and then they've lost now 3 years in a row. First time that's happened since Bear Bryant was coaching, and 49-51. And no, I wasn't covering it then either. But and I would probably, and I'll give Missouri a tip of the hat. I hear what you're saying, and frankly agree with it. But I'm telling you this Luther Burden is a special player at wide receiver. Brady Cook anybody who can do this deserves some credit. has the consecutive 347 consecutive passes without a pick, and that's impressive. I don't care who you are. So, Mark, I will largely agree with that. Now, obviously, years ago when the other Beamer was at Virginia Tech, we would have given them probably the nod. Maybe every other year, every third year with Clemson. That certainly is not the case now as they play Florida State this weekend. So that's a pretty good list, and I would concur. Yes, that most years they should not lose to those teams.
Brent, overhauls were made and announced this past week surrounding Division I membership requirements, effectively shutting the door on any more move-ups from FCS to FBS. The big two, in my mind, were upping the transition fee from $5,000 to $5 million and requiring, I don't have the exact number here, I think it's 210 fully funded scholarships to maintain your status. What do you make of all these new rules? Were they even necessary? And, you know, if the big programs get what they want with these new requirements, is that going to make them happy and make them never want to break away into their own league?
No, I don't think anything will make them happy because the circumstances change. The other thing that really got my attention with that was there's no longer I think they called it an attendance requirement. As far as, because there used to be, you would have to have a certain amount of seats in your stadium in order to be with certain divisions. We're not having that anymore. I think the second thing you said, I believe, is what you hit on it, is that the money going up to $5 million. I'm not, Diesel, could we say in our skeptical way that maybe that's what all this was about, that it appeared to be something, and I'm not saying that some of it couldn't help some of these schools, but the main thing is, well, we want more money in the coffers, and that's how we could get it.
Brent Beard joining us here on Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, the fan upstate. Brent, can you explain to me why this line for Alabama A&M is so close? 2 points, backup quarterback for Texas A&M. And then secondly, Brent, on the same game, is the general feeling now, considering that LSU is just not what we thought they were, that the winner of this game, is in the driver's seat to win the West?
Probably, yes. Now, look, you could have a situation where A&M could win, but I mean, like A&M's next game's with Tennessee, and they could lose that game. So, we just really don't know, but I think that's probably what people are looking at. Very unusual that we're having a Saturday where the two top teams in the East and the two top teams in the West are playing each other. I'm with you on the spread. Now, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but one of the big rumors going on around this game is that Jalen Milroe has got a hamstring injury, and that might be affecting it. Now, I've talked to Alabama beat writers and tried to track this too, and nothing real definitive on that. And who knows where that may have come from. So I would have thought the way that A&M is playing, and again, I know it's against Arkansas and Auburn, but I mean, they have just been devastating on defense. Frankly, I mean, when you get 15 tackles for loss in the last two games each, that tells you, doesn't it, where your front seven is. So I'll be honest with you, Mark, I really thought A&M would be favored. That it might not be but one or two or three, and this may very well be a field goal game before it's over. But that really kind of surprised me too. And I know these guys trying to make the money even, but could Vegas know something at this point that we don't?
Brent, since it's Halloween season, I'll put this in Halloween terminology. On the scale of taking a leisurely stroll through a graveyard to inviting a vampire into your home for dinner, how bad of an idea is NIL at the high school level, which is happening in Florida? And to your knowledge, Is it coming anywhere else to any other states?
Yeah. I think it would probably be inviting the Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman in for dinner, and none of them have ate all week. Look, this is going to the high school level. It's already in Georgia and some other states. Florida is beginning to look at taking steps to deal with this. Guys, I'm willing to sit down and listen to somebody who's going to tell me how this could be a positive thing, but I just don't know, my stars, if college guys are struggling with the maturity of dealing with this, what in the world would you have on the high school level with that going on too? So and again, it's not a fact, but it is talked about, and it is a real possibility in Florida. Now, when Arkansas, Louisiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee high school associations allow NIL activities in some fashion for student athletes, we don't know what all this is yet. And I'm not saying this means that high school kids are getting $50,000 apiece or anything like that. We really don't know where all this is going yet. Now, the Florida Board of Directors is going to meet early November about this, but yeah, I would still probably stay with Dracula the Wolfman. I might even throw the Phantom of the Opera in there too for dinner too. How about that, Martin Diesel?
I'm down with that, buddy. I'm down with that. Brent, do you consider Georgia to be on upset alert this week?
Well, I think Georgia will win the game, but I spoke to the Georgia Bulldog Club last night here in Jacksonville. It's the second largest club next to Atlanta, if you can believe that, because there are a lot of Diesel Mark knows this. There are a lot of dogs down here, and look, they know this team is not as good as it was the last 2 years, and they've accepted that, and they're aware that somebody could beat them. I would, if Devin Leary was playing better, Mark, and he's only about a 59% passer, I would probably go maybe as giving Kentucky more than a puncher's chance. But again, I mean, if they were to, if Ray Davis, I don't think he will because he'll be targeted. If Ray Davis jumped on them early and they got behind 14-0, the way they've been doing in the first half, I mean, and as physical as they are, that Georgia has a better roster. Georgia still is probably more physical, but there's still injuries. Sims is out on the offensive line. Kendall Milton gets hurt a lot. This still could be a tough game, but the reality of it is, Georgia still got to play Missouri that's undefeated. Kentucky it's undefeated. Tennessee with one loss, and Ole Miss with one loss. So, guys, on a weird night, cold, snowy, rainy, or whatever, could Georgia have one of those Missouri games like they had last year?
It's a heck of a point. Brent, I got to tell you, man, I think Georgia is going to have their hands full this coming weekend. Brent, Oklahoma, Texas, Red River rivalry. It's amazing. I was looking at some of the stats for this game. A win for either team makes them a 70% likelihood to make the college football playoff.
Yeah.
A loss for either team makes them under 30% to make the playoff. Coaches like to say it doesn't come down to one player, one game, but it really does seem to in this case. Your thoughts on what we might see? What year 3 for Steve Sarkisian, year 2 for Venables?
I like Texas in the game, and I like them because this is Sark's most complete team, but I like them basically because of their defensive line is so good. Frankly, I mean, now Venable's doing a really good job of getting them back up to some respectability too. I just don't know if they can consistently block the Texas defensive line. I mean, listen, Texas right now is able to beat people and have tackles for losses and sacks by just rushing 3 or 4 people. I don't mean 5 or having blitzing linebackers to go along with it. So I will take Texas in the game, but with also saying that Oklahoma has improved significantly. I don't think it's enough to beat Texas, but man alive, what Martin Diesel, what in the world is this game to be like talking about next year?
Man, it's wow. And next year in the SEC, oh man. Brent, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Florida here, and even though I don't really want to, Brent, they came into that game, the Gators did, with a top 5 national defense, and were absolutely blown off the ball. Now, I didn't get to see a lot of it, Brent. I was doing a CBS show. Right. I asked my dad about it. My dad always gives me the orange and blue colored perspective. And he said, Mark, not much to say. They opened a can of whoop ass. Yeah. I mean, that's what he said. So with a defense that was playing so well, with a defense that really throttled Tennessee at home, I asked Josh Pate about it earlier this week, Brent, and he said they're a mentally weak team who is so fragile they can't replicate their home performance on the road. How do you describe where we are with the Gators right now?
Well, I think the thing that disappointed me in the Kentucky game was they just either would not or could not tackle. They just let Ray Davis run all over them. I hope your dad didn't tell you that at one point Florida had 13 players on the field and still could not tackle Ray Davis.
Oh, no.
So, Mark, you need to Google that if you haven't seen it yet. But that's – and I just did not see a lot of intensity in them. I mean, my Stars, that is one of their biggest games of the year. I mean, we talked in the beginning of the year, they had 2 or 3 50-50 games, and they've got another one coming up with South Carolina. But they've got 2 or 3 50-50 games that could go either way that's going to decide their season. And I think the thing that was disappointing, that ETN is still not getting enough carries, and they were just totally overwhelmed by the physicality. And we talked too about Florida is not very physical. We're not going to see that probably for another year or so, but they've got to be able to get that way. I know everybody's waiting on Derek Lagway to come in, the tremendous recruit.
Yes.
But hopefully he will make a huge difference. And I still think Graham Mertz is okay, frankly. But as you said, the run defense collapse really surprised me. They'll beat Vandy, and again, the South Carolina game is going to be huge. But they really do need to be competitive against Georgia, and I think they will. So look, Mark, if there was a day for you to be on the air and distracted, it was last week, wouldn't it?
You're not kidding, my friend. You are not kidding. Some things the eyes just are not meant to see, and
No.
that was one of them. My friend, have a great weekend. We appreciate you so much. Okay.
You too, guys. Great to be on, and look forward to next week. Okay.
All right. Take care. Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter, First Coast News in Jacksonville at Brent BEAIRD. All right, my friends. As we are on the cusp of the first college football playoff reveal of the year, we ask you guys, who are the best teams ever not to make the CFP? That, my friends, is next, and this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ron, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. Hey, it's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Wonderful to have you guys with us here on a Friday edition of the show. You know, guys, this is crazy to me, man. You consider where we are, and let's get caught up on the MadWorldAttractions.com text line as well. Buckeye Brian is going to Arizona plus 21. It's going the big swing, Brian. Big swing this week, man. So you're saying there's a chance. Texter says, ultimate disrespect by Mr. Beard calling Frank Beamer the other Beamer at Virginia Tech. SMH, he is a legend and a Hall of Fame coach. Sincerely, Hokey Chris.
Lighten up, Francis.
Hey, Chris, how do you explain Frank Beamer being 22-32 through 5 years, them bringing him back for a sixth year, him going 2-8-1 in that sixth year, and then bringing him back the following year? How do you explain that? There's no way you would have brought him back, right? There's no way you would have. Be honest with yourself. Texter says, not sure about overall record, but one classic example of U of SC football was when Spurrier beat Alabama and then lost to Kentucky the next week. The next week, LOL. See, guys, like there's certain teams that are always the same. And one of the things that we have excitement about for Florida and South Carolina, you know, is it's totally unstable. We have no idea what to expect, right? Year by year, coach by coach. Kentucky, under Mark Stoops, is the same team every year. Missouri is the same team largely every year. They're always about this good. This is always the style of play, right? You know, I know you want to tell me, well, Mark, Missouri could be better this year than in years past. I don't think so. They're always going to be somewhere between 3-5, 4-4, 5-3 in the SEC every single year. Another texter brought up 2010, beat Alabama, lost the next year to Kentucky. Kirby wouldn't win at U of SC. See, this is the thing that gets me, Diesel. At Georgia, Kirby can get people in school that can't spell the first letter of their name. He wouldn't win it. It's not like the University of South Carolina is this bastion of academic prowess, sir. It's not like South Carolina's an Ivy League school. Okay? You really don't think you'd be any better than you are now?
I love this new trend of academic smack talk because it's usually coming from the dummiest of the dum-dums in the audience who talk smack over academics.
Yeah, that's right.
You just Googled your national rankings and you're mixing it in there with the same old, you're a clown, you're a coot, you're a tater, slams.
And why do you do that? Why do you do that? Okay, my friends, so this is interesting to me. Do you know that in 9 years of the college football playoff, 9 years, only 14 teams have made it? Diesel, go.
In 9 out of 14?
No. In 9 years.
9 years, 14.
Only 14 different teams have made the CFP.
Okay,
Diesel,
Alabama.
go. Okay.
Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. Let's see. Florida State has made it. Washington has made it. Oregon has made it. Georgia has made it. Let's see who else. God, this is tough when you have to do it rapid fire off the top of your head. Who else has made it? Notre Dame has made it. Let's see. There's never been two ACC teams in at the same time. LSU made it. So I got 9.
Very good.
Gosh, who else? There's got to be. There's another SEC team in there I'm missing. I'm sure of it. Definitely not Florida.
You're going to be ashamed of yourself for who you missed, by the way.
I haven't missed Clemson. I thought I said Clemson.
No. Yeah.
I hadn't said them yet?
No, you did say Clemson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michigan.
There you go.
TCU.
There's 11.
Michigan, TCU. Any other Pac-12? Did Southern Cal ever make it in early on? No. Okay. I said Washington and Oregon. Let's see who's out of the Big 12. Oklahoma. Oklahoma's made it.
Yes.
I don't know. Texas has never made it. Baylor's never made it. I'm trying to think. I don't think anybody else out of the Big 12 has made it. I don't know. Give up. I have 12 out of 14.
That's
right?
Very good. Very solid. But the one you missed is going to, especially given who you are as a college football fan, Diesel.
Yeah. Oh, Cincinnati.
Dang it. You left out Cincinnati.
Oh, come on.
You didn't want them to leave out Cincinnati, but you left out Cincinnati, sir. You left out Cincinnati. You left out Michigan State.
That was a long time ago.
They went like one of the first years, and it was like 24-0.
Oh, they got slammed in that playoff game. I remember that.
But not bad. Not bad. I know you're upset at yourself for forgetting Cincinnati. That is all told a job of very, very well done.
The fighting Scott Satterfields.
But how about, folks, those schools that have still not made the CFP? You know, it's an embarrassment to me as a Florida fan that Florida has not gotten in. You know, it's an out-and-out embarrassment. All right? So I want to ask you guys, to which schools is it most humiliating that they haven't yet been to the college football playoff? And how close are they? I am humiliated that the Gators have never been to the college football playoff, and I'm here to tell you, I don't think we, that's the one team I use we for, I don't think we are especially close in any way, shape, or form. Okay? Now, I was thinking about certain teams here, okay, certain programs, most humiliated that they have not yet made the college football playoff, and then kind of factoring in how close are they, right? And on this list, all right, I've got Miami from the ACC. We agree on that, right? Miami from the ACC. Miami fans would have expected to make the CFP by now. Certainly, Texas fans. How do you feel like, say it out loud, how do you think Longhorn fans feel that that Texas Christian University made it to the college football playoff before the Longhorns did? Texas Christian University made it before they did. Cincinnati's now in the Big 12, has made it before Texas did. All right? How about Penn State never having made the college football playoff? No Penn State berth in the college football playoff. How about no berth for Wisconsin in the college football playoff as well, my friends? We mentioned Notre Dame has gotten in, but how about no berth for USC? USC has never made the college football playoff. That's got to be humiliating AF to those guys, right? Oregon has made it. Washington has made it. Oregon made it all the way to the national championship game one year. Stanford, they're snooty, so you would think they would expect to make it, but they're the face of inconsistency, Stanford is. Then you go over to the SEC, and you got Florida, and you've got Tennessee, and you've got Texas A&M, and in my opinion, you've got Auburn. I think Ole Miss, Diesel, they might not like me to say this. They're just kind of happy to be here,
Cashing checks, baby.
Yeah, they're cashing checks. But I think Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Texas A&M, you've got 4 fiercely proud programs there. You mean to tell me in 9 years we had 36 different slots and we couldn't claim one of them? 36 slots in 9 years? Who is most humiliated, ladies and gentlemen, that they have not made the college football playoff yet? Florida's top 5, right? They've got to be. They've got to be. A&M's up there. USC, Texas are up there. Penn State was the one, Diesel, I had to keep going back and checking. It's like, you Happy Valley idiots, you've never made the college football playoff?
Well, they've got Michigan and Ohio State in their way, mostly Ohio State. I know Michigan's just really kind of come back on over the past couple of years. But Penn State's always been that program that'll pack 90,000 people into their stadium and then drop a game or two that they're not supposed to drop. They do this to themselves. Every year we're talking about how good Penn State's going to be this year, and they always drop a game that they're not supposed to drop. Hell, they almost lost to App State in 2018. Had to beat them in overtime. So it's a team that will lose games they're not supposed to.
It doesn't make sense. They're a high and mighty and highfalutin program, right? And there's something, guys, admit this, right? The reason why I did this was twofold. Number one, I wanted to feel a little bit better about myself for Florida not getting in. But number two, it's enjoyable to watch the rich kids suffer. It's enjoyable. There's something enjoyable about that. I laugh that Miami has never made the college football playoff. Texas never making the CFP is very humorous to me because everyone mentions the Matt Leinart and Vince Young game as the best college football game ever played. And then, you got to look at Penn State every year, and you see this big, lofty number next to their name. Number 6 Penn State. Wow. The Big Ten East. Was this the Legends or the Losers division? Which one was this? They got a big number 6 next to their name. Michigan number 2, Ohio State number 4, Penn State number 6. They're going to blow it. They blow it every year. They're going to blow it again. They've outscored their opposition 203-48 this year. And you know as well as I do, they're going to blow it again. Okay? They're not going to win their own division. Therefore, they're not going to play in the conference championship game. You know what, Diesel? For crying out loud, if there was ever a conference that should do away with divisions, it's the Big Ten. You've got Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State in the same division.
Yeah.
And in the other division, the best you have, first, second, and third place, are Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. The hell is that? Why are they still doing divisions?
Yeah, why can't Wisconsin ever get it together? They always feel like a program that should be on the verge of popping and making something happen. I never really expect Minnesota to be much, honestly. Iowa, sorry, boss. They're up and down, up and down, up and down. And I just assumed, all right, that's who this program is. That one year they're going to win 9 or 10 games. The next year they're going to win 4 or 5. And they're just such a seesaw pendulum type of program. And I don't understand it because Kirk Ferentz has been so steady there. It just blows me away.
So what do you think, Diesel? Who is most humiliated? Oh, actually, hold this. We'll get to your answer on the flip side. Guys, that's the question for you. What program is most humiliated that they haven't been to a CFP? And who on this group, who is on this list? There are certain lists, they put up in your office. You don't want to see your name on that list. None of these teams want to see their names on this list. Who is closest to getting off of it? You tell us next here on Offsides. We are the fan upstate.
You might be an offsider. Number 1 for real afternoon sports talk. Offsides with Mark Ryan.
It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the fan upstate. We're talking about the fact that only 14 teams have made the college football playoff in 9 years. And the fan bases that have not gotten in that are most humiliated about that fact. Who is most likely to get off the humiliation list the fastest? Miami, Penn State, Auburn, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, USC, Texas A&M. Diesel, is Wisconsin good enough to be on this list or no?
Yeah. I mean, Wisconsin, they seem to have this aura and cachet about them.
Yeah.
They have jump around, and that's fantastic. And people pay attention to them because of that. They had Russell Wilson. They had, blanking on their names now. They had 2 just dynamite running backs at the same time. Devin White or something.
Yeah, White.
White.
That's right.
What was his first name? I can't remember exactly. It was just 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they had this just monster running back core. And then they get into big games and they can't handle it.
Yeah, they've never had the quarterback play. So naturally, Florida goes and gets their quarterback. And now that's our quarterback, Graham Mertz. Let's get to Rich in Chicago, who's up next. Hey, Rich, thanks for the call, bud. How's the Windy City?
It's cold. You don't want to be here.
I don't. No, thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Good to hear your voice, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I got a couple quick things for you. I'm going to do a Hail Mary because I told Diesel, since I don't get in on this every week, I need a Hail Mary on the underdog play.
Uh-oh.
I'm in Maryland plus 19.5 against Ohio State.
I've seen it too many times, Rich. I've seen this too many times. Undefeated Maryland's played nobody, goes to Ohio State, loses 50-3. I've seen it too many times, but I'm absolutely pulling for you. I would love to see Ohio State get depantsed in front of the nation. Would warm the cockles of my heart. What else you got?
This is a different Maryland team, and they're pretty good, and they got Tua's brother who can play. I'm not impressed with Ohio State, but anyway, I wanted to get to two things. That's one we knocked out. I sent you the data on after listening to your high school show, which I thought was very interesting, because you guys have created a lot of excitement on the high school play. But here's the thing for your listeners that I think doesn't bode well for either Clemson or South Carolina. And I think I sent most of this to you, but to give just the headlines, if you look at the top ranked high school teams, South Carolina only has one in the top 100. And then if you look at the top prospects, which really surprised me, how about this? The top 100 ESPN prospects for 2024, Georgia's got 14, Florida's got 7, and South Carolina's got 1.
All right, so let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, Rich, okay? My theory is that for whatever reason, they're not really spending a lot of time looking at South Carolina. And I've got an example here to share with you. Tyler Brown, freshman wide receiver at Clemson. Imagine this. Imagine a 3-star true freshman wide receiver from South Carolina playing as a true freshman at Clemson. Will never happen, right? Not only is he playing, Rich, he's the best wide receiver on the team. And a lot of folks have told me that the players here are very underrated. Why? The spotlight's not on him? I have no idea.
Well, I don't know either, but he might be the exception.
Okay.
I think, and you pointed this out clearly, you're very good at this. If you don't have skill position players that are highly recruited, you're going to have a very difficult time. The Gators, their mediocrity is predicated on having really guys like Mertz. I mean, you're not ever going to be a dominant team with marginal quarterbacks. And until they straighten that out, what I think you're right about, who should be totally embarrassed is fellow Gators here. They got the best high school kids in the country, the best high school teams, pretty much. And you can't put together a dominant team in the last 10 years. That seems to me, that's going to be just a coaching issue.
That's it.
Rich, you might want to go grab some hot tea, my friend. The weather change up there is really giving you hell right now. You good?
No, just for the record, that's why I'm at home for the last 4 days. I've gone through proton treatment for post-cancer treatment 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I had to pick it back up, and I got COVID in the hospital.
Oh,
So I'm stuck at home, and that's why I listen to you guys. I'm working and listen to you guys all the time while I'm working. And you guys, you know, you need to change being a marketing guy. You talk about the best interactive show. You know what you are? You're the best creative show. When you listen to CBS Radio, and my friends are all over this, you come up with topics that nobody talks about. It's creativity. It's not interactive. Interactivity follows creativity.
Well, thank you so much, Rich. That means a lot. I got to give an assist to Diesel on that as well. Some of the topics that we've had have come from Diesel as well, and we'll use them here. Go anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Fantastic to have you guys with us. Truly do appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing what you do. As is always the case, the YouTube feed is hopping. Madcraft says Nebraska should be on the list that is humiliated that they have not been to the CFP. Now, maybe 30 years ago, Madcraft, but when you've been irrelevant for so long, how do you still show up on that list? SC Country, good to see you in the YouTube feed as well as Trey. The
weird thing is, like, you don't normally see the Blue Bloods kept down for long. I mean, they were Blue Bloods for a reason. They've got great alumni support. They're usually, big universities that are churning out a ton of alums every single year. That's why it's so hard for a relative unknown to launch all the way up into the stratosphere, not only does it take the right stadium, well, it takes the right coach, it takes all the right players, and now it takes the right NIL collectives. It takes a lot of money to have that. You got to have a huge alumni base to be able to donate the kind of money to be able to compete on that level. So that's why it blows me away that Nebraska, with their massive alumni base and their history, so they remember what it's like to be good, that they can't get it right. It blows me away that they can't get it right. And it's like, is football just moving away from middle America?
It's, I mean,
the heartland of America?
That is $1 million question, right? And then you think about, gosh, Diesel, these other schools that have been to the college football playoff. Are any of them in the heartland of America? Let's see here. Alabama, no. Clemson, no. Ohio State, no. Cincinnati, no. LSU, no. Georgia, no. Florida State, no. Michigan, no. Michigan State, no. The two candidates, Diesel, are Oklahoma and Notre Dame. Do those qualify? Oklahoma might.
Yeah, Oklahoma definitely.
Yeah.
The quote-unquote flyover states.
Yeah.
That's heartland of America, the flyover states.
Yeah. Oklahoma
more corn than people.
We'd have to ask Brent Venables. Are you hitting any recruiting stumbling blocks with kids just not wanting to come to that part of the country? It's the tornado zone, too. You know what I'm saying? You're landlocked, it's hot as balls, and you get tornadoes. I don't know, guys. Like if you were asked to deal with a hurricane or a tornado, you're going to get like a Cat 5 hurricane or a Cat 5 tornado. Which would you rather go through? For me, it's the hurricane all day.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm familiar with them. Number two, I can see it coming a mile away. Number three, I have time to prep all this other stuff. Tornadoes, just like there is no defense for a tornado sometimes. That's the scariest thing about them.
You can even build a house that is quote unquote hurricane proof. Like, all those old hotels that are up and down the strip on the West Coast, East Coast of Florida, all these hurricane proof hotels, these 2-story, mostly brick and concrete structures. Hurricanes don't blow those things over. No. I mean, they may break some windows, they may flood a room or two, but they don't blow those hotels over. But there's no such thing as a tornado-proof structure, other than a root cellar underground.
Because that tornado is hurling cars into your structure at 150 miles an hour, right? I mean, that's the gist of it. Always take see. Look, don't say we don't teach you anything here on the show. Always opt for the hurricane over the tornado. Look, you learned something on Offsides today. Never been better. All right, my friends, it is time for us to do that jam. We call it the top 5 at 5, the top 5 biggest sports stories of the day, the top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the upstate, Offsiders, the top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
Payback is a you-know-what, brother.
5.
Tallahassee Todd. How are you, buddy? All right, at number 5 today, we are talking about the Braves and the Phillies. Series kicking off tomorrow. All 4 series kicking off tomorrow. We went from 12 to 8 this week in the MLB playoffs. All right, so who do you love? Who do you got? Guess who the biggest favorite is? The Atlanta Braves. They are the biggest series favorites. Now, I don't know. I'm sure if you're a Braves fan, you're a little bit nervous about playing Philadelphia. Philadelphia knocked you out of the postseason, right? But relish this opportunity. You have a chance to make it whole. You have a chance to make it right. You don't want the easy path in life. You want Philadelphia on that wall. You need them on that wall. And it's fantastic. But it sure does feel as though we are headed toward a collision course. Dodgers, Braves, NLCS. Does it not? It sure does feel that way. On the AL side of things, I'm really keen to see the road records for those teams that have to travel on the road. Rangers, 1 game under 500. Twins, 1 game under 500. Phillies and Diamondbacks one game over 500. They're capable on the road. I like the Twins' chances, believe it or not, better than the Rangers, because the Twins get an Astros team that was subpar at home all year long. Would you believe the Houston Astros were 39-42 at home, under 500 at home? They were 51-30 on the road. Go figure. You know, don't go see the Astros play when they come to town. You're likely to wear the L. But anyway, guys, give me the Rangers. Give me the Astros. Give me the Braves. Give me the Dodgers, setting up the Final Four that many of us have expected. All right? Sorry I don't have more upset picks here, but I'm going chalk for the most part in the divisional round. Next up.
4.
You know, sometimes, folks, you're just wrong. Other times you have a really cool level of foresight that other people don't have. You might remember on March 10th that we were on the air the day the announcement came out that Carolina was trading for the number 1 overall pick. And we're on the air live, and it was like 5:55 p.m., and I was beside myself in a year without a number 1 overall, you know, a bona fide number 1 overall player, without a Trevor Lawrence, right? Without that guy sitting there at the top. Carolina made a panic move to move up. It reeked of an itchy trigger finger for the owner. It reeked of an impatient owner. And I couldn't believe the 2 first-round picks, the 2 second-round picks, and DJ Moore. And all you guys told me, Mark, you got to do it. I have a boss here who said, Mark, I think they have to do it. I think they had to move up. How's it looking now? Okay? You can't even make a judgment on Bryce Young. Some people are calling Bryce Young mid. You guys know what that means? Mid means like kind of middle of the pack, mediocre. They're calling him mid right now. You can't judge him. He's got nothing around him. He's got no offensive line. He's got no weapons. Now they're trying to make another panic move to get him a wide receiver. Oh, you got to get him some weapons. Yeah, but you traded all your picks. Had you just stood pat for one more year, guess what it looks like that pick is going to be? Caleb Williams. Okay? Guess what the player who you gave up was? The draft pick you gave up. Jalen Carter, Georgia. It's probably going to be the defensive rookie of the year. So if you just stood pat, right? You're in line to get Caleb Williams next year. You still have DJ Moore, and you drafted Jalen Carter last year. Compare that to where we are now, right? Compare that to where we are now. It just makes no sense. They have gotten 10 cents on the dollar, and they're not giving poor Bryce Young a chance. Again, I would never have made that deal. Would never have made the trade. And I say that independent of Bryce Young being a competent NFL player or not. Just think about that, okay? Think about, like, would you rather have Bryce Young and nothing, or Caleb Williams next year with a number 1 pick that was yours, DJ Moore, who was already on your team, and you keep last year's pick and you draft Jalen Carter? You tell me. Next up.
3.
At number 3 today, I'm going to give you my most confident bet of the weekend, okay? Because, folks, I don't know how I'm doing this, but I'm 7-2. I'm 7-2 on my bets this year, all right? So every single year, I do this ditty where I put out $100 before the football season begins. Okay, $100 before the football season begins. If I win, I can keep playing, right? If I lose the $100, I'm out. Okay, I'm completely and totally out. But I'm doing well. I'm doing very, very well right now. So let me tell you some of my bets for this coming weekend, including my favorite bet. I've got Syracuse and 10 points against North Carolina. So if Syracuse loses close, I win. High five. If then I've got Notre Dame at Louisville. Just money line. Notre Dame to win. Okay, they don't have to cover any spread, just to win. I've got Alabama -2.5 at Texas A&M. I don't know. Say it out loud. It's Alabama. Okay? It's Texas A&M and a backup quarterback. I've got my upset pick of the week. I've got Marshall, and I'm taking the 6.5 points. I've got Texas on the money line just to beat Oklahoma. And my favorite bet of the week, folks, and this might be one of my favorite bets of the entire year. Kentucky and 14.5 points. I get 2 touchdowns and then some. How are you going to be feeling if you're a Georgia fan and you take Georgia and you give up those points? If Georgia comes out like they have against Auburn, against South Carolina. They were down by 11 against the Gamecocks. They were down by 10 against Auburn. And I get 14.5 points on top of that. Now you're down 24.5 points. Kentucky is a motivated, hungry, physical, fundamentally sound team going to Georgia with the full intent to win. I get 14.5 points. Folks, that is, bar none, my favorite bet of the week. What's your favorite wager of the week? Let us know. 71307 on the madworldattractions.com text line. Next up,
2.
at number 2 today, we have tackled with you the best teams that have never made the college football playoff because only 14 have. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Cincinnati, LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, Florida State, Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Oregon, TCU, and Washington. So how about the best of the rest? How about the best that never have? Miami, Penn State, Auburn, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, USC, Texas A&M, Wisconsin. If you had to add a 10th, would it be Nebraska? Would it be Oklahoma State? Team you're surprised hasn't made the playoff yet? Of those teams who have not yet made the CFP, who is most humiliated by their absence? Okay, most humiliated. And who is closest to getting off of this dreaded list?
How old do you think Mike Gundy is right now? You know, his famous, I'm a man, I'm 40. That was a long time ago.
Wasn't that long ago, was it?
Yeah, it was.
I'm going to say 48, Diesel.
He is 56.
What?
That was assuming he was 40 when he made the rant. Now, I don't know if that he might have been saying, I'm a man, I am at least 40. But he is now 56.
What? I'm old. I'm not that old.
I knew you wouldn't have a chance of getting that right.
James Gilstrap on the YouTube page says, is it out of line to also mention the deal Carolina could have had with the Rams for Brian Burns? 2 first-round picks. 2 first-round picks. You might be losing Brian Burns now for nothing. And James Gilstrap, I'll let you know this, buddy. Brian Burns has an average Pro Football Focus grade. Average. He's elite at rushing the passer. He's got all these moves, but there are some holes in his game. Physicality, stopping the run, etc. I don't know.
That rant was 16 years ago. Mike Gundy was 40 when he made that rant. 40 on the nose. That was 16 years ago.
Mind blown. Mind blown,
Right?
My friends. Oh, my goodness gracious. All right, guys. And finally,
1.
at number 1, there are a list of teams for Clemson, South Carolina, and Florida that, in my humble opinion, you should never lose to. Ever. Okay? For Clemson, the never lose to list is Georgia Tech, Boston College, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Duke. Why? Well, you got basketball schools on here. You guys prioritize football first. You should never lose to a school that doesn't have football as their top priority when it means everything that it does to Clemson. Then you've got your small school, Wake Forest, small enrollment, small stadium. Come on. You know, you got your Boston College, who's an afterthought in their own market. Boston is a pro sports town. And then you just have the general blech of Virginia, of the state of Virginia and Virginia Tech. Only 1 or 2 guys have ever won at those schools, right? At South Carolina, the never should lose to list includes Kentucky, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. What do you mean, Mark Ryan? Missouri beats South Carolina quite often. Missouri is 119 games over 500 in their history. They've won 2 SEC East championships. What do you mean South Carolina should never lose to them? Yeah, because they're not a cultural fit in the SEC. They don't have the fertile recruiting ground that South Carolina does. That's a massive advantage. And Missouri is always kind of the same team. They're always between 3-5 and 5-3 in the SEC. They're never better than that. Some years they're worse. Okay? Missouri is always on a scale of 1 to 10 between a 4 and a 6. And don't tell me they're better than that this year. They're not. You know as well as I do. They're going to be 4-4 or 5-3 in the SEC yet again. No need to even discuss Vanderbilt, right? Florida's list that they should never lose to. Kentucky, Missouri, Mississippi State, South Carolina, UCF, and USF for the Florida Gators. And see, so Kentucky's beating Florida now, right? They're beating Florida 3 years in a row. Missouri's beaten Florida and South Carolina a few times. But when Kentucky and Missouri are beating Florida and South Carolina, it's a sign that those programs aren't right. And Kentucky's right now at a high point. The Florida Gators losing to a basketball school 3 years in a row. Last 4 recruiting classes. Florida's average class in the last 4 years was number 13. Kentucky was number 27. Give me a break. It's pathetic. Who should be on your team's never should lose to list? Those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The madworldattractions.com text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan and away you go. You can get to us on Facebook. You can get to us on Twitter. You can get to us on YouTube at The Fan Upstate on every single one. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is MARC Ryan at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Guys, I did not put it in my top 5 at 5, but I do want to pay homage to somebody in sports who was critically important, and I'm going to do so next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate.